Dr. Minho Park wiped sweat from his forehead as he knelt beside the enormous crystal structure. His handheld scanner made quiet beeping sounds in the thin air of Kethmoran, a planet that had been dead for thousands of years. The landscape around their small research camp looked like a nightmare: cracked ground, twisted metal ruins, and mountains that had been split in half by some terrible ancient war. The crystal formation was unlike anything Minho had ever seen. It rose from the ground, like a frozen waterfall, reaching almost 30 meters into the pale sky. Its surface was smooth and dark, but deep inside, faint lights pulsed like a slow heartbeat. The whole thing gave him an uneasy feeling, as if something was watching from within. "Stay back from those crystals," called Dr. Velthar, the expedition's alien expert. She was a Catherian, one of humanity's newer allies in space. Her body looked like a cross between a praying mantis and a spider, with 6 arms that ended in delicate hands. Her voice came through a translation device that made her words sound mechanical and cold. "Those are prison stones. My people built them long ago to trap the beast of Kethmoran." Minho stood up slowly, his knees aching from crouching too long. What kind of beast needed a prison this big? Velthar's large black eyes reflected the crystal's inner light. A monster that ate everything. Entire forests, whole mountain ranges, even the oceans. Our history books call it the Devourer. It consumed this planet piece by piece until nothing was left alive. Dr. Heejin Lee, the team's expert on alien life forms, was running her own scans nearby. She was frowning at her equipment, tapping the screen with her finger. "That doesn't make sense," she said quietly. "I'm getting brainwave readings from inside this crystal, but they're not simple or violent. They're complicated, like the patterns you see in really smart creatures when they're thinking hard about something." Velthar made a clicking sound, with her mandibles that the humans had learned meant disagreement. "That cannot be right. Check your equipment." The Devourer was pure hunger, nothing more. It had no thoughts beyond eating and destroying. The alien researcher moved closer to examine Heejin's scanner. Her 6 arms worked quickly, checking connections and calibrating settings. "Human technology is still new to these readings. You must be getting interference from the planet's magnetic field." But Heejin wasn't convinced. She had spent 10 years studying alien life forms, and her equipment had never failed her before. The readings were clear. Something inside the crystal was not just alive, but actively thinking. The brain patterns reminded her of dolphins or whales, creatures that had complex social structures and could solve difficult problems. As the day wore on, more crystals were discovered scattered across the ancient battlefield. Each one contained the same mysterious readings. The Catherian team members became more nervous as more prison stones were found. They whispered among themselves in their clicking language and kept looking at the sky, as if expecting something terrible to fall from the stars. That evening, the 2 teams set up their camps on opposite sides of the dig site. The Catherians preferred the rocky high ground, while the humans chose a spot near the largest crystal formation. As darkness fell, the crystals began to glow brighter, casting strange shadows across the dead landscape. While her alien colleagues slept in their environmental suits, Heejin couldn't stop thinking about the readings she had detected. Against all safety protocols, she crept out of her tent and approached the main crystal with her portable scanner. The night air was cold and thin, making her breath visible in small puffs. As she got closer to the crystal, her scanner began picking up stronger signals. The readings were incredible. Not just brain activity, but what looked like memories, dreams, and emotions all swirling together in patterns too complex for her equipment to fully decode. Whatever was inside this crystal prison had been thinking and feeling for a very long time. Suddenly, the scanner detected something that made Heejin's heart race. The consciousness inside had noticed her presence. Like a person waking up from a deep sleep, the ancient mind was stirring, reaching out through the crystal walls to touch her instruments with invisible fingers of thought and energy. The morning started like any other day on the dead planet, but everything changed when the mining drill bit into the largest crystal formation. Minho was drinking his morning coffee when he heard the first crack. It sounded like thunder, but the sky was clear. The massive crystal began to split right down the middle, like an egg that was finally ready to hatch after thousands of years. Within seconds, bright light poured out of the crack. Not ordinary light, but something alive and moving, swirling with colors that had no names. The crystal pulsed like a giant heart, and each pulse sent more fractures racing across its surface. The ground beneath their feet began to shake, and small rocks tumbled down from the nearby cliffs. Emergency sirens wailed across the camp. The Catherian team went into panic mode immediately. Velthar's voice cut through the chaos, her translator making her sound even more urgent than usual. Everyone to the shuttles now. The prison is breaking. The devourer is waking up. Her team didn't need to be told twice. 6 armed figures scrambled across the rocky ground, grabbing equipment and running toward their spacecraft. Some of them were making high-pitched clicking sounds that the humans had never heard before, sounds of pure terror. But the human team reacted differently. Dr. Young-Soo Kim, their language expert, stood perfectly still, staring at the breaking crystal with wide eyes. He had spent his whole career studying how different species communicated, and something about this situation felt wrong. If this was really a monster waking up, where was the roaring? Where was the violent thrashing? Young-Soo, we need to go. Minho grabbed his friend's arm, but the linguist shook him off. Wait, Young-Soo said quietly. Look at the light patterns. They're not random. As they watched, the crystal split completely in half with a sound like breaking glass. What came out was nothing like the terrible monster the Catherians had described. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. A creature made of living light and flowing organic matter that seemed to dance in the thin air. The being was huge, easily 20 meters tall, but it moved with incredible grace. Its body looked like it was made of liquid starlight, constantly shifting and flowing. Patterns of bioluminescent light raced across its surface, blues, greens, purples, and colors that human eyes had never seen before. It was like watching the northern lights come alive and take shape. But what struck Hyejin most was how scared it looked. Despite its enormous size, the creature was curled up in a defensive position, like a frightened animal trying to make itself smaller. Its light patterns had shifted from bright white to soft, gentle colors, the same kind of colors that meant peace and calm in many Earth species. It's not attacking, she whispered, hardly believing what she was seeing. Look at its posture. It's afraid of us. The creature's glow dimmed even more, as if it was trying not to be threatening. It reminded Hyejin of a lost puppy. Despite being larger than most buildings, she decided to call it Lumina because of its beautiful light. Meanwhile, high above the planet, Catherian warships were moving into attack positions. Their weapons were charging, preparing to blast both the creature and anyone who didn't evacuate. In time, radio messages crackled through the air as the alien commanders argued about the best way to destroy what they saw as an ancient enemy. Young-Soo ignored the chaos around him and carefully approached Lumina with his translation equipment. The device was designed to pick up and analyze any form of communication: sounds, electromagnetic signals, even chemical markers. As he got closer, the readings on his screen went wild. The creature wasn't making random noises or movements. Its electromagnetic field was shifting in precise mathematical patterns. Young-Soo recognized some of the sequences: prime numbers, geometric progressions, even what looked like basic physics equations. This wasn't the mindless hunger of a predator. This was someone trying to talk. It's trying to communicate, he called back to his team. These aren't animal sounds, it's showing us mathematics. Lumina seemed to notice Young-Soo's equipment. The creature's light patterns changed, becoming more focused, more deliberate. It was like watching someone learn to use a new language in real time. The mathematical sequences became more complex, more sophisticated. Other human team members began to gather around, ignoring the Catherian evacuation orders. Dr. Ji-Won Han, their expert on alien psychology, was recording everything on her tablet. Look at how it's responding to us, she said excitedly. It's not just copying our signals, it's building on them, creating new patterns. The creature seemed to understand that the humans were different from the Catherians. Its defensive posture relaxed slightly, and its colors brightened to warmer, more welcoming tones. For the first time in thousands of years, Lumina was no longer alone. The breakthrough came 3 weeks after Lumina's awakening. Young-Soo had been working 18-hour days trying every communication method he could think of. Mathematical sequences, musical patterns, even simple drawings scratched in the dirt. Everything helped build a bridge between human and alien minds. The real progress started when Young-Soo realized that Lumina wasn't just responding to their signals. The creature was teaching them its own language. The flowing light patterns across its body weren't just beautiful. They were words, sentences, entire conversations written in living color. Dr. Jiwon Han was the first to crack the basic meaning behind the colors. Blue meant sadness or loss. Green represented life and growth. Purple indicated deep thought or memory. Red was for danger or warning. But the combinations were incredibly complex, like reading a book where every word was made of shifting rainbows. It's not just talking to us, Jiwon explained to the team during one of their evening briefings. It's trying to show us something. Every time we make progress with the language, it gets more excited, like it's been waiting thousands of years to tell someone its story. The real revelation came when Lumina began sharing its memories directly. At first, the humans thought they were hallucinating. Images would suddenly appear in their minds, not like dreams, but like watching movies projected directly onto their thoughts. The visions were so clear and real that several team members had to sit down, overwhelmed by what they were experiencing. The first memory showed Kethmoran as it used to be. The planet was alive in ways that took their breath away. Massive forests stretched to the horizon, their trees reaching kilometers into the sky. Oceans sparkled with colors that shifted like oil on water. But these were living colors. Billions of tiny creatures that painted the seas with their glow. And moving through this paradise were beings like Lumina. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds, each one unique but sharing the same graceful flowing form. They tended the planet like gardeners caring for the most beautiful garden in the universe. Where forests grew too thick, they would thin them out. Where deserts spread too far, they would coax new life to grow. They were living balance, keeping everything in perfect harmony. My people were the planet's caretakers, Lumina explained through rippling patterns of gold and green light. Young-Soo had to speak the words out loud as he translated, his voice filled with wonder. We guided the growth of life, helped species adapt and thrive. We were connected to everything, the smallest flower, the largest mountain. But then the memories turned dark. Ships appeared in the sky, primitive Cytherian vessels from their early spacefaring days. The ancient Cytherians were nothing like their modern descendants. They were conquerors, looking for new worlds to remake in their own image. They wanted to terraform our world. Lumina's light patterns shifted to angry reds and oranges. Make it suitable for their kind of life only. But we were already here. We had been here for millions of years. The humans watched in horror as the memories showed what happened next. The Cytherians saw Lumina's people as pests to be exterminated. They used weapons that poisoned the soil and burned the forests. They hunted the planet's guardians like animals, tracking them across continents. We tried to save what we could. Lumina continued, its colors now deep blue with grief. When we saw a species dying, we would absorb its genetic patterns into ourselves. We became living libraries, carrying the DNA and memories of countless creatures within our bodies. This was what the Cytherians had called devouring. They saw these magnificent beings trying to preserve life and called them monsters. They spread stories about creatures that consumed everything in their path when the truth was exactly the opposite. We were trying to save our world, Young-Soo translated, his voice breaking with emotion. But they called us devourers. They said we were eating the planet when we were actually trying to preserve it. One by one, Lumina's people were hunted down and killed. The last few were captured and imprisoned in the crystal matrices, locked away where they couldn't interfere with the terraforming process. The Cytherians transformed the living world into the dead rock the human team had found. I am the last. Lumina's light dimmed to barely visible whispers of color. My people are gone, but I carry them all within me. Every species that lived. On Kethmoran, every creature that called this world home. They live on inside my body. I am their final sanctuary. Hee-Jin ran her scanners over Lumina again, but this time she understood what she was seeing. The complex biosignatures weren't just one creature, they were thousands. Lumina's body contained the genetic blueprints of an entire world's worth of life. Plants, animals, microscopic organisms, even the planet's unique forms of bacteria, all preserved within a single being who had endured millennia of imprisonment rather than let them die forever. The humans stood in stunned silence as the full truth sank in. They hadn't discovered an ancient monster. They had found the galaxy's most dedicated guardian, a living memorial to a murdered world. The message from space came at dawn, crackling through the communication array with the cold authority of military command. Admiral Krexmar's voice was different from the other Catherians the humans had worked with. Harder, more mechanical, stripped of any warmth or compromise. Human expedition team, you have 24 hours to evacuate the dig site. The beast will be terminated by orbital bombardment. Any personnel remaining on the surface will be considered hostile and dealt with accordingly. Minho stared at the radio in disbelief. They're going to kill Lumina. After everything we've discovered, everything we've learned, they still want to destroy it. Youngsu was already working frantically at his communication station, trying to contact Earth. The signal would take hours to reach home, but humanity's leaders needed to know what was happening. This isn't just murder, he said, sweat beading on his forehead. If Lumina dies, we lose the genetic history of an entire world, thousands of species that could be brought back to life. The response from Earth came faster than anyone expected. Admiral So Young-choi's voice was calm but firm as it echoed across the dead planet. Admiral Krexmar, this is the UES Harmony. We have reviewed the data transmitted by our research team. The being you call the Beast is not a threat. It is a guardian and a victim. Humanity will not stand by and watch you commit genocide. The silence that followed was terrifying. For long minutes, no one spoke. Then Krexmar's reply came, colder than before. Your species is making a grave mistake. This creature is responsible for the death of billions. Our historical records are clear. Your historical records are lies, Admiral Choi shot back. Our scientists have uncovered the truth. Your ancestors were the destroyers, not the victims. We will not allow you to finish what they started. Within hours, the situation spiraled completely out of control. The Catherian Consortium recalled their ambassadors from Earth. Trade agreements that had taken decades to negotiate were torn up in a matter of minutes. Humanity's most important alliance in space was crumbling, and it was all because of one creature that most humans had never even heard of. But the worst part was happening right in front of them. Without the crystal matrix to sustain it, Lumina was dying. The creature's beautiful light patterns were growing dimmer by the hour. Its graceful movements became sluggish and painful to watch. The being that had survived thousands of years of imprisonment was finally failing, just when it had found friends who understood its true nature. We have to do something, Hee-Jin said, watching Lumina's colors fade from bright gold to pale yellow. It's weakening too fast. At this rate, it won't survive another day. Chief Engineer Taemin Jang was already studying the power readings from their research ship. The vessel wasn't designed for this kind of operation, but desperate times called for creative solutions. I think I can reroute power from our fusion core, he said slowly. Create an artificial energy field to replace what the crystal was providing. Dr. Hyunwoo Shin, the team's medical officer, looked at the engineering specs and went pale. Taemin, this will drain almost all our power. Life support, communications, even our escape pods, everything will be running on backup systems. If anything goes wrong, we'll all suffocate before help can reach us. The team gathered around their makeshift command center, faces grim in the dim emergency lighting. Everyone understood what this choice meant. They could evacuate now, save themselves and watch Lumina die from the safety of space, or they could risk everything to keep the creature alive, knowing that failure meant death for all of them. Minho looked at each of his teammates, seeing the same determination in their eyes that he felt in his heart. We didn't come all this way just to abandon our discovery when things got difficult. Lumina trusted us with its story. The least we can do is trust ourselves to save it. One by one, The team members nodded their agreement. Even knowing the risks, even knowing that they might die on this dead world far from home, they couldn't walk away from something so important. Taman began the delicate process of jury-rigging their ship's power core. Cables snaked across the rocky ground, connecting human technology to an alien being in ways that had never been attempted before. The work was dangerous. One wrong connection could cause a fusion overload that would vaporize everything within a kilometer. Meanwhile, Young-Soo maintained constant communication with Earth, updating their government on the situation. The political implications were staggering. Humanity was choosing to risk war with a powerful alien confederation to protect a single creature. It was either the most noble or the most foolish decision in human history. As the Catherian fleet moved into attack position above them, weapons charging for planetary bombardment, the human team worked through the night. They had chosen their side in a conflict that would reshape the galaxy's balance of power. Now they had to live long enough to see if their choice had been the right one. The standoff lasted 3 tense days. Catherian warships hung in orbit like mechanical vultures, their weapons trained on the planet's surface while human vessels approached from the outer system. But when the Earth fleet finally arrived, they brought something unexpected. Not weapons of war, but instruments of peace. The lead ship was a massive research vessel, followed by habitat ships, botanical laboratories, and ecological engineering platforms. Admiral So Young-Choi's message broadcast across all frequencies was simple and direct. We're here to learn, not to fight. We're here to preserve life, not destroy it. Lumina sensed the change immediately. The creature's light patterns, which had been dim and weak for days, suddenly blazed with new energy. It was as if hope itself had taken physical form. The being that had guarded the genetic treasures of a dead world for millennia finally understood that it would not have to carry its burden alone anymore. Dr. Yoonji Park was among the first scientists to arrive from Earth. As the mission's chief botanist, she had studied terraforming and ecosystem development for 20 years, but nothing had prepared her for what Lumina showed her. The creature began sharing its preserved genetic patterns through bioelectric transfers that painted impossible gardens in her mind. "This is beyond anything we've ever imagined," she whispered, her voice filled with wonder as data streamed across her screens. "Look at these plant structures. They can grow in any soil, any atmosphere. They actually improve the environment around them instead of competing for resources." The genetic codes that Lumina had preserved weren't just random samples from a dead world. They were the blueprints for perfect ecological balance. Every species had evolved to work together, creating systems where waste from one organism became food for another, where every element contributed to the health of the whole. Other scientists joined the research effort as word spread through the fleet. Marine biologists studied water-purifying organisms that could clean polluted oceans in months instead of centuries. Atmospheric specialists marveled at microorganisms that could transform toxic gases into breathable air. Agricultural experts discovered crops that could grow in desert conditions while actually enriching the soil. These patterns could revolutionize everything, Dr. Yoonji told Minho during one of their evening briefings. Terraforming, environmental restoration, even feeding Earth's growing population. Lumina isn't just a living library. It's the key to sustainable civilization. But the political situation remained dangerous. The Catherian fleet still maintained its blockade, and tensions were rising throughout their space empire. Other alien species were choosing sides, some supporting humanity's compassionate stance while others feared the consequences of defying Catherian authority. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Velthar, who had spent weeks watching the human-Lumina interactions from a distance, finally approached Minho with a request that shocked everyone. "I want to experience what you experienced," she said quietly, her translation device making her words sound uncertain. "I want to see Lumina's memories for myself." The memory-sharing session lasted hours. Velthar experienced the true history of Kethmoran through Lumina's consciousness, saw her ancestors as they really were, not as the heroic terraformers of official history, but as conquerors who had destroyed something beautiful and irreplaceable. When she emerged from the experience, Velthar was visibly shaken. Her chitinous limbs trembled as she processed what she had learned. "We were taught that we brought civilization to a savage world," she said slowly. "But we were the savages. We destroyed paradise and called it progress." Her report to the Catherian High Command changed everything. Dr. Velthar was a respected scientist, not some human sympathizer who could be dismissed. When she testified that the historical records were incomplete, possibly deliberately falsified, it forced the consortium leadership to reconsider their position. Economic pressure played a role too. Humanity had become the Catherians' largest trading partner, and the threat of losing that relationship was devastating to their economy. Entire sectors of Catherian society depended on human technology and resources. War would hurt them far more than it would hurt Earth. The negotiations took weeks, but eventually a compromise was reached. Lumina would be granted full protection under galactic law as a sentient being and the last survivor of its species. In exchange, humanity agreed to share some of the genetic restoration technologies they developed from Lumina's knowledge. The final ceremony took place on New Eden, humanity's newest research colony. It was a world specifically designed for scientific study, with vast laboratories and controlled environments where dangerous experiments could be conducted safely. But for Lumina, it would be something much more personal, a new home where it could finally rest after millennia of imprisonment. As the great creature took its first steps on New Eden's soil, something magical happened. The ground beneath Lumina's feet began to glow with the same bioluminescent patterns that decorated its body. Plants started growing, not earth plants or Catherian crops, but species that had been extinct for thousands of years, brought back to life through Lumina's preserved genetic codes. "It's not just remembering them," Young-Su observed, watching as flowers bloomed in patterns that spelled out stories in living color. "It's bringing them home." Humanity's choice had consequences that rippled throughout the galaxy. Other species began to see humans not as another conquering race, but as protectors of the innocent and preservers of knowledge. Trade agreements followed, along with cultural exchanges and scientific collaborations that enriched everyone involved. But the most important change was in how the galaxy remembered its past. Lumina's testimony forced historians across dozens of worlds to re-examine their records, to question the official stories they had been told. The truth was often uncomfortable, but it was also liberating. On New Eden, Lumina continued its ancient work, but now it had help. Human scientists worked alongside the Great Guardian, learning to nurture life instead of simply exploiting it. Together, they were creating something unprecedented, a living monument to all the civilizations that had been lost, and a promise that such tragedies would never happen again. Humanity had found its place among the stars not through conquest or commerce, but through compassion. They had become the galaxy's conscience, proof that intelligence and kindness could coexist in the vast darkness of space.